totally
corrected
go
that.
away immediately.
So somebody else who does orthotics, hey folks, we're here. We'll be right with you. Said, have they prescribed some special shoes for you? And I said, no, nobody's ever talked about it. So it's on my list to talk to physical
Good.
therapy, and I see
Yeah, it's
that
possible. Now, maybe not. Those look like good.
these are the Skechers. They're just foamy.
Yeah. But maybe for now you couldn't do that. But at
Yeah,
some
no,
point in time, it
Right.
might help.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
You
Somebody
know,
else told me the same thing.
way,
They got
it's just
special
the way
shoes.
that you hold your foot different.
Right.
You know.
They said get some of the weight off of your heels and in the other places, and you may heal better. All right, we're at noon. Look at that. Just been chatting. Ah, look. Oops, I forgot to take it.
No.
There. I'm gonna come sit over here. So, hello everybody. Welcome to Faith Filled Friday on Friday, September 3rd. My God, it's September. Oh my God. It's September of 2021. It's Pastor Steve from Christ Presbyterian Church in Tucson, Arizona. And I welcome you to another edition of Faith Filled Friday. And I have some good friends with me who are a part of this church family. They're from Prescott. Now that's how you know I'm a native Arizonan. It's not Prescott, right? It's Prescott. And so I grew up calling it Prescott. Up north, well north of Phoenix, and they participate with us when they're here in town. They participate online. They participate in their Prescott church. But let me introduce you to Don and Joy Street. This is Don and this is Joy. I just, they were coming in town. They called me to let me know they were here and wondered if I had a few minutes to just say hi. And we always kind of catch up when they're in town. So I said, yeah, come on in. And why don't you do the Faith Filled Friday? And they kind of texted back and said, no, I don't think so. And then they texted back and said, why not? So they're here. So I thought I'd ask them to tell us a little bit about their church background. Did you grow up in the church? Did you find a church later? What was it like for you, Don? Did you grow up in the church?
I grew up in the Methodist church.
Always a Methodist.
And the one thing I remember about the early church was the first time I was able to take communion. The Sunday school teacher came out to my parents and said, you need to have a talk with him. He asked for seconds. But we had some real good youth advisors and things. And there was one minister that my parents loved that stayed there for more than 10 years, which for a Methodist back then
It's a long time.
a long time. So I enjoyed my time there at the Methodist church.
Nice. And did you grow up in the church, Joy?
My father is a Methodist minister.
He was. Oh, I didn't realize. So Dad was a Methodist pastor. That's really cool.
So Methodist church, too. But I came away feeling like I didn't like the Methodist church because of the way my dad got moved around to different churches and things. So I didn't like their organization of how they moved people.
In the Methodist church, it's a little different than in Presbyterian church. In the Methodist church, the bishop is the one who really assigns a pastor to a church. And there's some really lovely things to that because sometimes you get a pastor you don't expect that brings some gifts that you didn't know you needed. But it's also very difficult on a church, and I think very difficult on a family because they get moved at least every 7 years. It used to be, and sometimes a little bit longer, but that's pretty tough. In the Presbyterian church, it's more of an open job market. When a church is looking for a pastor and pastors looking for a church, they interview each other and see if that works.
The good part about the Methodist church is every church always has a pastor, period.
Yes.
The bad part about it is what,
Yeah.
getting moved once a year sometimes if your dad is not popular.
Not popular.
Not
right.
popular.
And that's a tough thing.
Or if they preach against things that the congregation doesn't
Didn't
want to
like.
hear about.
See, that's a tough part. And of course, being Presbyterian affords me the opportunity to have been here 25 years. In the Methodist church, that probably would never happen, kind of thing. When did you get to Prescott? I forget about when you moved.
1979.
79 is when you moved up to Prescott.
Yeah.
Wow.
We were in Clifton, Arizona from 69 to 79.
Okay. And tell them how you found CPC.
Well, we had a condo here and we just looked for a church and found
came.
We actually tried another one, but didn't.
It
you know,
wasn't a
it
good
was
fit.
okay, but it was at Presbyterian Church too, but
Yeah.
it wasn't as fun as this. So.
We like fun.
You weren't there. You weren't
We
there.
like
That's
fun.
why. That's why.
Yeah, it's been fun to meet Don and Joy over these years when they're in town. They have some family here in town that they come down to see, and had a condo here, so they would come down quite often. And they would worship with us. So it was always fun to get to meet them and get to know them. And then the pandemic hit.
Before that, we asked him to help us renew our.
Oh, I forgot about
That
that.
was for our 50th
Yeah,
anniversary.
50th, so
and
that's
that was wonderful.
It was a great time to gather in the sanctuary just with a few folks, and we celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary. It was really lovely. That's one of the joys of being a pastor. You get to do those kinds of things and celebrations with people. So, but still involved in two churches. They must be some kind of sinners if they need to have two church homes. But how cool is that you're involved in two churches? What gives you that interest?
Well, we go to church, so if we're not in Prescott,
You worship
we
here?
figured we should worship somewhere, and we fell in love with your Christmas things. And, the other thing Joy's Methodist background made different than mine was my parents moved to the house that I called home when I was in 2nd or 3rd grade, and we stayed there till I was through college.
Oh, wow.
And
So
the
good stable
Methodists-
roots.
The Methodists had homes that they got to use.
Right. The church man's.
So
Which
Joy was
usually
a
weren't very
frequent
good.
flyer. She lived in lots of places.
Yeah. So worship's important to you.
Yeah.
Why?
It's how I was brought up, and I enjoy
Me too.
listening to messages. And I wasn't in the choir until probably 10 or 15 years ago.
Oh, good.
And Joy has a different choir experience.
Yeah. You've been in
Yeah.
choir for a long time.
Since I was a kid.
Yeah. It's been fun. For those of you who saw some of our virtual choirs, you would have seen Don and Joy in our virtual choirs. So they would record from home in Prescott and send the videos in to Luke, who would loop them in with all the other choir members. So it was really kind of fun that, when the pandemic hit and their choir shut down at their home church in Prescott, they were able to participate in our virtual choir here because they weren't able to do that. Their church wasn't able to put that together. So it's been
And
fun.
then the church in Prescott started a virtual choir, and then for a while we wanted to be in both of them, but it was all both on Wednesday night
Wednesday
at
night
7
choir,
o'clock, so it didn't work too well.
yeah,
but
so they
we
needed
took
to-
turns
yeah,
and whatever,
good.
so yeah.
And then focus on your home church.
Yeah.
So worship's important to you. What's it do for your faith life?
It just keeps me going.
Yeah.
Period.
And I know that feeling, having grown up in the church and worship every Sunday, and all morning long we were at church.
But church is a habit, if
Yeah.
you miss 3 Sundays in a row, then you really
You've broken
easy-
your habit.
Really easier to miss
Yeah.
4, 5, or 6
Right.
Sundays,
It is.
so it's good to stay in the habit.
It's kind of funny for me on those times when I'm on vacation, even pre-pandemic, if I was on vacation, and it happened to be that we were in a spot where there wasn't a place to go to worship. I couldn't figure out what day it was. My whole week was
Right.
off. It just,
Right.
that beginning the week with worship was really centering for me in my faith and reminding myself to set the whole week. And now it's kind of different as a pastor. Worship is actually at the end of my week because I take Monday off, and most everything is geared toward what's coming the next Sunday.
Right,
And once I get through
right.
Sunday, then I kind of relax a little bit. So in a sense, my week ends with worship instead of begins with worship nowadays. Just professionally, it's different, but without it, I'm kind of lost. I appreciate worship.
And I think part of what made us keep coming to this church when we were visiting is I was impressed by the Needy Family Project you had and the sandwich things, and it just seemed like you had a lot of outreach, and to me,
Helping
that's
other
important.
people.
Yeah, a lot of outreach and mission through this church.
We should set good examples of how we live, but we need to see that we also share.
I've always been humbled over the years that we've done what we can, and we've had to cut back as church life has changed, but we don't just do for ourselves here at the church campus. We always make sure that mission is beyond the walls and the property here, that CPC is being an aid to the community and to the world. I've always loved that, so that's really great. Any last thoughts for the folks online? Challenges for them?
Well, with regards to the virtual choir, the good part was when we'd have practice, we'd get to actually meet the other people here in choir, and we got to know some of them and share our prayer concerns with them and things like that. The bad part was the recording of the music.
Yeah, it's tough. We were talking about how hard that was to record the music virtually and actually listen to yourself back. And
Sounds bad.
it does, but Luke is a wonder. He makes all of us sound like Pavarotti or something like that. He does really, really well. Any challenges you have for those online?
No, I just was say what I'm missing about during the pandemic. It was our group of joy singers that we had at
And what was that?
Prescott, and we went to sing at nursing homes. And it was wonderful, and I can't do it now, so it's really sad.
Yeah, the visitation.
I felt like that was my calling to get people to come with me, and we went.
Joy Singers. Now there's a new project for CPC. Is a group of people that would go out and sing for other folks.
It was a very good thing.
Yeah.
But
and not just at Christmas. I think we're used to Christmas caroling.
All year round.
Yeah, all
and
year
at
round.
the Memory Care Center, we sing Christmas carols all year round.
Oh yeah, they love
loved
it. They're the most familiar. Yeah.
They could sing with us, yeah.
Maybe once.
Music is really important to those people, because even if their minds are starting to fade, you can see when we sing the old hymns that they know it and they try to join in.
They try to join in. That's the great.
Music is real important.
I love Joy Singers. That's of course your name, but
well, it didn't start out to you know. One of the ministers decided it should be called Joy Singers.
I think that's a wonderful thing.
Maybe I didn't name it.
You're right. Myself. Maybe as we look at coming out the other end of the pandemic, whenever that might be, that may be a new project for us throughout the year, is some Joy Singers, and you know, maybe there's ways we can do it even during some of the COVID precautions. Who knows? We're going to be blessed this coming Sunday at the 10:45 service. We get a physical choir. So they've been rehearsing on Wednesday nights, and this will be the first time they are actually leading us in worship, and they have this beautiful anthem that's going to bless us at the very end of our worship at the 10:45 service. So I'm looking forward to having that physical choir, because you know how important music is to me, and it is to my faith journey as well. So
if somebody does decide to do that here, what we've been trying to convince people about it is the people that come sing just have to want to be around these people. And make a joyful noise. They don't have to be
don't have to be perfect singers.
Just come and smile and move your lips if you want,
right.
but you can see the people and enjoy visiting. So.
Well, there may be even some who are in their own homes, and we have a lot of homebound folks who might be in their own homes, that we could go stand outside the front door. And you know, have some physical separation for us as singers, but still go sing the hymns in person. Wouldn't that be cool? What a maybe the Holy Spirit's putting something on the heart of CPC to develop yet a new mission ministry in music. So let me know what you think. Well, anyway, folks, thank you for joining me for a little bit on Faith Filled Friday. Thank you for Don and Joy Street, who are such
the street people of Prescott.
The street. When they're here, they're the street people of Prescott. You're right. And I so appreciate their faith. I appreciate the witness that you give, that worship is important throughout our lives, not just when we're raising kids or not just when we're kids ourselves, but when the kids are all out of the house and you could choose to do whatever you want, you still choose to do worship. And I'm humbled by that, because worship is at the core of my faith. I know in my week and how it goes, how it ends, how it begins. All of that kind of stuff. So To all of you online, thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you on another Faith-Filled Friday next week. We invite you to join us Sunday for worship at 8:30 and 10:45. It's the first Sunday of the month, so we'll be celebrating the Sacrament of Communion. If you're here in person, don't worry about it. We'll walk you through. If you're needing to be online, we invite you to make sure you have some sort of bread, some sort of juice that's with you. And at the time that we're all partaking of communion in the room, the two worship spaces, we'll invite you to partake as well. Thank you for joining us. Great to be with you. Happy Faith-Filled Friday, everybody. Look at that, I can stand up. Not without some pain in my feet, but I'm standing.